So, until now we have talked about the way of drawing the level lines. Now in this part I want to tell you how to determine the height of a wall. So, here I have 3 levels, level 1, level 2 and level 3. And I didn't write the standard names here because it would be a bit long. But I want you to consider those previous standard names. I just wrote L1, that means level 1, level 2 and level 3. And you can also see the heights 0, 3 and 6. Alright, now we have a wall here. Each wall we draw in Revit has a base that is in the bottom and it has also a top. Now we are going to find out how we should determine this base and the top. I wrote it for you here, determining the height of the wall. Just like it's written here, the base of the wall is determined by the name level. Dear friends, pay attention. In the last part I explained that each level has a name, for example level 1, level 2, for example floor 50, floor 20 or anything else, and also a code, a height code. Now here is saying that the base of the wall has nothing to do with the levels code, but the level's name. Now, you tell me if you want to determine a base for this wall, what should we say in here? What should we write for the base of the wall? If anyone is saying 3, well, it's wrong. But why? Because 3 is the height of this wall. Here I said it's determined by the name of the level. So what should I write here? That's right, it should be L2. You see, that means that the base of this wall is on level 2. So you understood that the base of the wall works with the level's name. And now we should say L2. This is the base. But what about top of the wall? As you can see, we have 2 ways to determine top of the wall. One of them is to show the name of the level, that we call this way up to level. And the next way is to show the height. And we call this method or way unconnected. Unconnected to any levels, and we just say the height. So let's analyze this one together. If we want to use up to level method and determine the top of this wall, what should we write down here? I bet you do. That's right, we should write the name of the level on the top, which is L3. Alright, so we say up to level 3. Up to level 3. But the next way is height, that we call the unconnected. Now, if we want to write the height of this wall, what should we write? Now, a lot of you might think that we should say 6, but it's not right, it's wrong. You need to determine the height of the wall itself. So what should we write here? That's right, we should write 3. That means we don't care about the height of the top of the wall, which is 6 now. We should determine the height of the wall, which is 3. Alright? Now, when we want to determine the height of the wall, based on these explanations, we can use 2 methods. The first one is that we can say this is a wall that starts from L2, you say the rest, from L2 up to L3. Alright? From L2 up to L3. Both base and the top are working with the levels. Now, method number 2. We can say this is a wall from L2 with 3 meters height. See? Pay attention. We don't say from L2 up to 3 meters height. This is wrong. We say from L2 with 3 meters height. That's right. Alright, now that we have 2 methods to determine the height of a wall, You might wonder that which one should we use? Or we'd better say that in what circumstances or in what times we should use any of these. Well, let me guide you a bit. In the 95% of the walls of a project, we use one of these ways, and remember that the base is clear, is always level name. Now the subject is top of the wall. In 95% of the walls of a project, we use one of these, and which one is that and why? Well, think about it. Is it up to level or unconnected? And why? Is there anything in your mind? Well, if your answer is up to level, well, it's completely right. It means that we always connect the top of the walls to the levels. But why do we do that? Well, in the architecture projects, as you know, change is one of the inseparable elements in a project. We always have changes. Now, imagine that you have worked on a project, for example, a hotel or hospital, and in the ground floor you have drawn 50 walls and the height of the floor was 3 meters. Now, in some reasons that is related to MEP, for example, this height must change. For example, after some analysis, they find out that the pipes cannot be placed very well in the false ceiling because of the lack of space, and the height must change. So, if you have used unconnected method, you have given a height to your walls, for example 3 meters. Now the height is going to be 4 meters. What should you do? You should go and select all the walls that you have drawn and then change the height. And that selecting is too challenging because in the middle of your job you might choose other objects with it, and it's actually a difficult thing to do. But if you have already used up to level method, that means you have connected top of the walls to the levels. You just need to change this, for example, number 6 to 7. 1 meter is added to the floor and all the walls are increased too. Why? Because they're connected to the levels, so they change too. That means by changing one number, you can change all the walls. But in unconnected method, we need to go select each wall one by one, and we might also make a mistake. So, choosing up to level as a method is not an option here, alright? It's actually a must, a necessity. You have to do it so that we can use the options that Revit has for us, the intelligence of the Revit itself actually. It's better to say it in this way. Now, what is the use of this unconnected? We said so many good things about up to level, but why about unconnected? Well, dear friends, there are some walls that have to be done with this unconnected method. Like what? Like the parapet wall, or for example the counter wall. What features do they have? Well, you might think that they're a little short. Well, that's right, they're a little short, but actually what really happens in these walls is that their height has no connection to the height of the floors, and we don't need to connect the base and the top to the levels. What other examples do you know for unconnected? Well, for example, the partitions or the walls of the yard. For example, the walls around the garden. Well, if you pay attention, these walls are not always short. For example, the walls of a yard might be too tall actually, but not connected to the height of the floors. For example, you go and buy a partition from a company that its height is 220. Well, we give it a height and then it's over. So while we are drawing the walls that their height is not related or connected to the height of a floor, we use unconnected method. So briefly speaking, the main walls of a building must be up to level, but the rest of the walls might be drawn in unconnected method. Alright? Now, let me tell you a point about this. So, if I have a wall, for example, like this one in here, and it's repeated in the floors exactly in the same way, and when I say exactly the same, I mean that the same materials and the same thickness. For example, here is 20 centimeters and break until the top. Now, I tell you that you are not allowed to draw this wall flatly. I mean the same from bottom to top. I mean from L1 to L3, you are not allowed to do this. But you say that, so what should we do? I tell you that you should make this into two pieces. But what does it mean? It means that once you should draw the wall from L1 to L2, which is this one, and then from L2 to L3. And if you draw L1 to L2 and then copy it, well, it's okay. But you are not allowed to draw it flatly. But why? Why should we do that? Because this is so much easier. L1 to L3 is really easy. Why should we do this? Now, the reason. Well, see, when we are working in Revit, we can claim that we are modeling the project based on the BIM base. When you do the modeling, there's also a next level, which is clash analysis, 4D as you remember. Well, in 4D or any other, they give us an execution code. Alright? For example, we call this one code number 1. And when we give this code, we also consider a time for it. For example, the first code is on the first week. So if we draw this wall flatly, then it becomes one object. So it receives only one code. For example, if it's code number 2, that means it's going to be built in the second week, while this wall in the first floor is built in a specific time and the second floor in another specific time. So it needs two execution codes. The first code, for example, is executed in the 5th week, and the next one is on the 10th week. You see? So you should draw the walls in the floors separated from each other so that they can receive different execution codes and different times to be built, which is for 4D. This is the first reason, but another reason is that if you draw the walls flatly, you will not have the size of the walls in each floor. If you draw this wall flatly, it shows you all the volume of this wall in the first floor, just the first floor. But why? Because Revit counts the wall based on the floor they have started from. So it considers the volume of the wall in the next floor in here too. But if you draw these two, for example, separated, each of these will have their own volume. And that's why we always draw the walls separated in Revit, even if they are repeated completely equally. By considering all my explanations, now we're going to work on a design in Revit so that you can realize it in a good way. In the practice that I have considered for you, I will explain all of these so that you can understand how to use them on the walls. Alright, I draw one side of this practice for you, for example, the left side, so that you remember some things, and then you can draw the whole design. Alright, the walls start from the floor that you are in. For example, if I'm in level 1 now and I activate the wall, it starts from this floor. But where can we find the settings? In the properties, In the properties, you can see the location line that we talked about last time, that it's the axis of the drawing walls. But what really matters to us this time is the base constraint and the top constraint. And as I told you, the base constraint is already level 1 because we are in level 1 now. But the top constraint is unfortunately unconnected, that we really should change it. And based on our agreement and my explanation, we always draw our walls from one level to the next level. So before we start drawing the walls, we need to manage our levels. So I select this, click on copy, activate the multiple, and draw 5 levels. And I won't change the names, I'll leave it to you. I also change the unit to work faster, meters and 2 decimal places. 0, 4, double click 7, 10. I've always been used to changing the levels height from here. I add here floor plan, but not, I won't add it to rest of them. I don't need it now. Well, it doesn't have this structure, so you should add all structures. So I enter level 1 and select the wall, and I start drawing based on my own plan. First of all, I change the location line and leave it on the finish face exterior. I want my thickness to be inside, so what should I do? That's right, click on space. I say that here's 6 meters and 5 meters to up, 11 meters to the right, 17, and that's it. Alright, after we drew the walls, we can manage the levels too. And I could do something else to manage the levels at the first and then draw it. It's actually not much different. Now I select this wall to see the properties. For example, the location line is finish face exterior. Base constraint is level 1 because I was there. And the top constraint is already unconnected, that I changed it to level 2 from one level to next level. Now check out the 3D. Now the view, let's make it shaded so that you can see better. Definitely if I change this 4 to 3 now, what happens? All the walls come down. If I change it to 5, all the walls go up, and this is what we really need. When you select the walls, you see the base offset under the base constraint and the top constraint, base offset and the top offset. Now, what are these? This actually shows the offset of the top and the base of the walls based on the levels that they have reached. But what does it mean? It means that if I, for example, select this wall and write 60 centimeters in the offset, it goes 60 centimeters higher than the level it has reached. Now, if you change this to 5, the wall will go up, and also with 60 centimeters offset. And I don't think we need it too much. I just want you to know that it always needs to be 0. And we do the same thing to the base offset. If it's positive, it goes up. And if it's negative, well, it goes down. So if you see sometimes your walls go into each other, check this offset. And don't think that these numbers are just for nothing. Sometimes I've seen some people do something wrong. For example, they select the wall and drag this arrow to top, just like this. Well, it's wrong. It just has a top offset now. The level hasn't changed. So, In level 1, I drew the walls from level 1 to level 2. Now let me draw some interior walls too, and you do the same thing too. So, I say from level 1 to level 2, I manage it first and then draw it. 4 interior walls for here and then I'm done. Now I want to go to the next floor. If you want to enter a floor, you should double click on the name of that floor. Not a single click, but double click. I double click and enter floor number 2. Now I see it's showing the level 1 really light. This shape from another floor is called underlay. You see? Underlay. Now let's define it. The light version of a design in the last floor under the floors you're in now is called the underlay. The light version of design in the last floor, which is now level 1, is called underlay. And you can manage this too. If you open it, you can determine which floor you want to see light. And when I say you can change it, that doesn't mean you always see the floor under yourself light. Sometimes it can be, for example, the 4th floor top of you. You can use this feature in order to manage which floor you want to see light. For example, we are in the basement, so we want to underlay the roof. The top roof, because we want to see the pipes that start from the basement to reach their top roof. Where do they show up? What if we have some equipments there? It actually has a lot of usages. And remember that when you are finished with the underlay, click on None. We say that we don't want it because definitely the presence of underlay can be sometimes annoying too, besides the benefits it has. Now I need it, so I click on level 1. In the top floor, if you pay attention to the map, you will see that the exterior walls of the top floor are completely like the interior walls of the base floor. Well, you might think that. Why drawing again? Why not copying? Well, that's right, it's a good way and we'll do it. And we will also learn how to copy in Revit. I entered the base floor or the level 1 and I select the exterior walls by clicking on tab that you learned in the last part. So let me explain it one more time. If you tab your wall once or twice, it actually depends on the project you're working on now. And then you will click once so that it happens. And you can select them. After that, you should click on copy, and here a lot of people make a mistake, and that's click on this copy. This one is used only when you want to copy an object, for example, 1 meters on the other side. If you want to copy an object from one file to another file or from one floor to another floor, you should use this copy, which is shortcut is Ctrl C, and it's actually different from this one. I click on it and now I can paste. I enter the floor I want to paste in. In modify, you see the paste? Maybe you think that we just click on paste or Ctrl V. No, don't do this. Because if you do it, you need to determine the place of your paste yourself. But instead of doing this, we use a very nice option of paste which is aligned to current view. But what does it do? It actually pastes the copied object of the last floor in its exact same place. which is so nice, and you don't need to do anything. You just copy it and then click on Align to Current View. After pasting this object on its own place, you might think that is the height correct too? Or is it the height of the last wall? When we will say that it's probably the last wall, but when we go and look at in the view, we see that that's right. There are both 4 meters, the first and the first and the next wall. So when we copy and paste an object, the height does not have to be right. So after pasting it, we should check the height. For example, this one should be from level 2 to level 3. And when I check it out, I see that this is correct. So why is it wrong now? That's right, it has top offset. It means that it's 1 meter higher than the level that it has reached. And when you make it 0, this top offset, then it will be correct. Just like you can see now. Alright, now I explain this process for you one more time so that you don't have to watch the video again, and also give some more details about it. So level 1, tab, select the walls, copy with this one, not this one. I come to level 2, open paste, and click on current view. When you paste, your walls are already selected. When you paste an object, it remains selected. So check it right now that your levels are correct or not. Don't wait for it. Immediately after you paste it, check the levels and the offset. Now this one, the offset should be removed. Alright. Now I write the interior walls of this floor from level 2 to level 3. You see, I just draw it without any purpose. You do the same thing. Let's see it in the view. Let me make it wireframe. Just like that. I change it to 3. Now 4. And all the walls are updated with it. Now let's enter level 3. But nothing is clear. Why? Because the underlay is off. So we come here and activate the underlay on the last floor. That means the level 2. If you pay attention to the plan, in this floor we should just draw a rectangle. We have just something like this. Pay attention to figure it out. So I select the wall and also select a rectangle with finish face exterior. The first thing I do is to be smart. I don't start from over here not to be able to cover there, but I start from here to be able to cover the corners. Another thing is that you do a lot, that when you want to draw, you see the end point and you draw it. Well, that's wrong. We have 3 end points. You see? 3 end points. When you click from here, from 4, do you understand which one it is? No. That's why after drawing it, you find out that your walls are not on each other in the right way. You see? Just like that. So be careful to zoom in a little while you're drawing. You see, zoom in a little, but not too much, just a little, so that you can understand these 3 are separated. What is your location line? It's finish face exterior, so you should start from here. Using which one of these lines is completely based on the location line, which is now finish face exterior. So I click on it and drag it down and then click on it again. Now see the 3D and also the view. And now I draw the interior walls too. Again, the top floor is repeating this flow. I tab, copy, and go to level 4. When you want to paste, your underlay does not have to be on. The paste already knows where to put it. So you should just click on Align to Current View. You don't need underlay unless you want to balance it with the interior walls of the last floor. And here we have some interior walls too, for example. You see, I drew a side of a project. The other side is the same thing, it's just one floor fewer. What you should do now is to complete the whole project based on this shape, this design that I prepared for you, and also draw at least 5 interior walls in each floor. And the interior walls must not be the same in all floors, don't copy it, alright? So that we can place the floor and the roof in the next episode and say all the points about it. But you must draw it first, alright? If it's difficult, watch the video again, but tell yourself that you must draw this before continuing.